country, having one aircraft carrier is pretty cool, but having two aircraft carriers is even cooler. And now imagine having a three-carrier battle group. That's the stuff of legends, right? Any country that has three or more aircraft carriers can easily be called a dominant naval force. And right now, there is only one so-called dominant naval force, and that's the United States of America. It has 11 aircraft carriers. Every other country that has aircraft carriers has one or two of them. India is all set to have a third aircraft carrier very soon. And if you thought that was a great achievement, here's more. They are going to be manufactured fully in India. Now, that's a very big accomplishment. And here's what we know so far. The Indian Navy has submitted a formal proposal to the government. The proposed vessel would be the second indigenously built carrier for India, signifying a major stride in India's quest for self-reliance in defense manufacturing. Currently, India operates its first homemade carrier, the INS Vikrant, which joined the fleet last year, and a Russia-made carrier, the INS Vikramaditya. Having a third one would allow India to have a three-carrier battle group. It would be a show of strength for the Indian Navy in the Indian Ocean, especially at a time when the Chinese People's Liberation Army Navy is increasingly marking its presence in the region. And for decades, India's defense policy focused on land borders. And now, as India's global ambitions expand, it has started flexing its naval power in international waters. India is carrying out more warship patrols than ever before amid growing concerns over Chinese aggression in the high seas. Indian defense analysts believe that this new aircraft carrier is crucial for India's ambitions of becoming the dominant power in the Indian Ocean region. A strong naval presence with robust carrier capabilities will be key in achieving this goal. You see, India's defense manufacturing capabilities have developed significantly over the past few years, and that's because of this. It's because of this progress that in September 2022, India commissioned the first indigenously designed and built aircraft carrier, INS Vikrant. It marked a significant milestone in the country's commitment to self-reliance. The proposed carrier is expected to be similar to the INS Vikrant in its core design. However, it will likely incorporate improvements so as to accommodate larger aircraft on its lifts. Additionally, the design might be adapted to facilitate the operation of high-altitude, long-endurance, unmanned aerial vehicles in the future. All that's waiting is the government's decision on the proposal. And if approved, this project would represent a substantial investment in boosting India's naval power. It will help India protect its 7,500-kilometer coastline and operate hundreds of kilometers away from its shores in the high seas. This would make India a truly blue water navy. Considering the fact that over 90% of India's trade by volume is seaborne, the Indian Navy needs to assert itself in the Indian Ocean. After all, India's strategic interests depend on several countries dotting these shipping lanes, be it Straits of Malacca, Hormuz, Bab el-Mandeb, or South China Sea. India recognizes the need to beef up the Indian Navy with more warships. But it's not just about strategic interests, you see. We cannot overstate the doctrinal significance of aircraft carriers to India or to any major naval force. The absence of an aircraft carrier with its range and depth of combat capabilities could potentially force a fleet commander to alter battle plans into a defensive mode. Sure, nuclear-powered submarines with their long-range ballistic missiles are important assets for the Navy, but aircraft carriers, well, they are used for power projection. Take the example of U.S. supercarrier IS Gerald R. Ford. The U.S. rushed its mega warship to the Mediterranean Sea to help Israel amid its war. It is no wonder that the former U.S. Secretary of State called an aircraft carrier 100,000 tons of diplomacy. And this is also why the Indian Navy has been advocating for 3 aircraft carriers to maintain presence on both the east and West Coast. The Indian Navy needs at least 2 operational carriers at any given time, while a third is docked for routine maintenance. And what this allows is having 2 carrier battle groups comprising of destroyers, anti-submarine vessels, submarines. Having 3 carrier battle groups would not only boost India's capabilities, it is important given China's expansionist plans in the Indian Ocean. The faster India's carrier fleet is bolstered, the closer India gets to becoming a strong naval force that is recognized as a global power. Are you a working individual? How many days in a week do you work? Sounds like a silly question, you would think. Well, what if that could change? How about a 4-day work week? Does that sound like a dream? Well, it has been in the news for a while now, and now France is in the news for a new trial scheme as far as 4-day work weeks are concerned. What exactly is this about? What is the plan? What was the trigger? Let's tell you all that you need to know. Now, this is a trial scheme for divorced parents. Basically, the country is testing a 4-day working week for divorced parents who have shared custody of their children. And the idea is to have more flexible working arrangements for them. As of now, the trial will start with civil servants, but could be expanded to cover all those who are working and share custody of their children. Divorced parents will be able to have a 4-day working week when they are taking care of the children. When is the trial going to start, you ask? In September this year. And starting that month, civil servants in some ministries who are in alternating residence arrangements will be working 4 days in a week. Like I said, this will be the weeks when the children are staying with them. What is not known as of now is whether this means that the total working hours will go down. Basically, would they be making up in the weeks that the children are not with them, so that the monthly average ends up staying the same? And by the way, it is expected that Wednesday would be the day that would be preferred for the off day. And that's because that's the day when most middle schools and also primary schools don't hold classes in the afternoons. So that's when parents would prefer to be off perhaps so that they can be home and take care of the children. Gabriel Attal, the country's current prime minister, was the country's budget minister 2 years ago. And interestingly, that's when he had introduced this in the finance ministry. The thing is, there have been long-drawn campaigns in France aimed at encouraging shared custody. The idea basically was to bring down the number of single parents' families. But what this also meant is that the children have to be basically moving between the homes of the 2 parents. And as far as this trial scheme and the idea of a 4-day work week for divorced parents goes, there are also concerns regarding how this would affect or be handled by smaller businesses, for example. There is also the possibility of this being looked at as a form of discrimination. The aim overall, though, is to improve the quality of working life in France and give divorced parents an extra day off to take care of their children. What do you think about the move? Should it be given a shot in other parts of the world as well? Write to us and let us know your thoughts. Has the British royal family been lying to you? Have they been feeding you fake stories and fake photos? Some of you may have already seen this photo. It was published last year, in April to be more specific. Queen Elizabeth was around. It was her 97th birthday. The royal family had gathered at the Balmoral Castle. That's when the Princess of Wales, Kate Middleton, had taken this photo, or so we were told. In the frame, you have Queen Elizabeth and her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. You can see Prince George, Princess Charlotte, Prince Louis, and other royals as well. Now, as it turns out, this photo was altered, or so is the allegation. British media outlets say there are several discrepancies in the picture, like this sleeve that suddenly goes missing. There are other visible signs of editing, like this black patch near Prince George's neck. Some photo experts suggesting what we have here is not a photo, but multiple shots stitched together. What now appears to be glaring went unnoticed for almost a year. And why do you think that is? Because not many people are used to questioning what's published by the royal family. They are used to taking everything on face value. But you see, that changed with one photo. This one photo, several inconsistencies. There is a missing sleeve, a zip that is not quite adding up. The photo has been recalled by some of the world's top picture agencies. The Princess of Wales had admitted to editing the photo. But how much was edited? With two back-to-back photo controversies, one cannot help but ask how much of what the royal family says or publishes is altered. How much is fake? How much is real? Are edits limited to photographs only, or are the narratives also touched up? Are the grim stories airbrushed? Is the line between real and fake blurred? Now, this is the X handle of the Kensington Palace. It is run by the social media team of Prince William and Princess Kate Middleton. Can you see how much content is being routinely pushed? How much of it should you be believing? The same question also applying to the PR and social media teams of the British King and Queen, and by extension, all of the British royal family. This is the latest photo on the handle. This is the Duke of Gloucester, Prince Richard. The post claims he visited a church in Norfolk and heard about their community outreach activities. Prince Richard is the cousin of late Queen Elizabeth. Was his photo altered as well? What about this one? We are being told that the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh attended a badminton championship. But how much of this photo is real? This question may sound bizarre to some of you, but one needs to ask this question. Is the royal family feeding you lies? You see, we are living in times where we are just coming to terms with the dangers of deepfake. Countries around the world are scratching their heads trying to come up with laws to rope in deepfake, the menace of deepfake. Social media platforms are changing their guidelines to try and tame the danger of deepfakes. YouTube, for example, has now asked content creators to come clean about AI-generated media. But who is checking on the British royal family? Take a look at this photo. Again, it's an old one from the Wales' last year Christmas card. Do you see what appears to be a missing finger? What about the extra legs? The British media is happy to report that touching up royal photos is an age-old practice. In fact, a man named Cecil Beaton, who would photograph the royal family, was reportedly a quote-unquote master of retouching. But here's the thing, back then retouching would mean hiding a blemish here or there or a dirty cuff. Today, there is no limit to the extent a photograph can be retouched, or should I say, even recreated. Today, it becomes a question of playing with reality. It becomes an issue of credibility. The British royal family is clearly not helping with its endless supply of altered pictures. What for? If the idea is to make the British royal family look picture perfect, then it's high time the royals realize that photos like these are nowhere close to serving that purpose. And if anything, they are a royal embarrassing disaster, pulling into account the very credibility of the royal family.